The company I chose to do from the Fortune 500 list is Nike Incorporated. They are ranked 61st. And the reason I chose Nike is because I've been using that brand since I was a little kid as far as running and basketball and apparel. And it's just a company that I really love, and I was interested in learning more about it. And it's extremely successful, and none of its competitors are even close to it. And so I wanted to see exactly what Nike does to maintain that top level. And so I'm going to tell you about it in the next few slides. Nike's mission statement is to bring inspiration and innovation to every athlete in the world. And so throughout this presentation, I will explain to you exactly how Nike tends to do that and how they've been doing it since the 1960s when it began, and just a little bit about what Nike is and what it stands for. Where it all began. Let's go back to the early 1960s at the University of Oregon, and there we'll find Bill Bowerman, the track coach at the University of Oregon, who was looking to find faster shoes for his runners. And one of those runners happened to be Philip Knight, who was getting ready to graduate and had such a love for running that he wasn't quite ready to give it up. And so what they did was, throughout the early 1960s, they talked about how they could get these better running shoes from overseas, such as Japan, into the United States to sell to runners worldwide. And so 1963, Phil Knight was finally able to travel to Japan, and he met with executives from Tiger Running Shoes. And here he was able to set up a deal where Tiger Running Shoes would ship shoes to Phil Knight in the United States, and he was able to begin his career that way. And his career started under the company name Blue Ribbon Sports, and so that's how Nike was really started. In 1964, so within the year, Knight and Bowerman and a couple other members of the team had sold $8,000 worth of Tiger running shoes, and they were continue to sell those shoes at a faster rate. By the early 1970s, so about 10 years, they had sold over $1 million in shoes, and this is where the name Nike was born. Philip Knight changed the name to Nike. He came up with Nike Incorporated, and this is where the Nike swoosh that we know about was trademarked, and it's been that way ever since. Philip Knight is the former CEO and founder of Nike Inc., as I just said, and he's the current chairman for the board of directors at Nike Inc. So although he's no longer the CEO, he's still a huge part. He's still an executive member of the company. And prior to working at Nike, he was a college athlete at the University of Oregon, and he was a public accountant as well as a professor of business administration at Portland State University. So he was able to use his business and accounting background to come up with Nike as a company and to build it up to what it is today. And now he's able to kind of step back and work with those lower level employees to come up with new ideas and new ways of doing things that works best for the company. Mark Parker is the current president and CEO of Nike. Prior to working at Nike, he was a former runner at Penn State University. And basically, right out of college, he joined Nike as a footwear designer in 1979. And for over 30 years, that's where you would find him, is working in design and innovation for Nike. He was also the vice president of consumer product marketing at Nike, the vice president of global footwear, and the co-president of the Nike brand before becoming the president. He's responsible for Nike's global business portfolio in regards to Converse Incorporated, which is owned under Nike Inc., along with Hurley International LLC, which is also owned by Nike. So taking those huge steps and being able to convince those companies to join with Nike is what Mark Parker is made of. He's completely committed to the brand, and he is been known as one of the leading innovators for companies globally, and he continues to show that while being the president and CEO of Nike. A little bit more about Nike. It has over 700 factories in 42 countries, which is a lot to manage. We can think about all the employees, all the products, everything that goes into a day in Nike and think about exactly what it would take to control that inventory and monitor everything going on. So it has a decentralized structure with that large board of executives making those upper level decisions, and then those lower level managers and employees who are overseeing day-to-day business and are still very important aspects of the company. It has a vertical organizational structure. Like I said, the board of directors, the president, chairs, executive board, and then those individual stores that have the managers and those other employees that work with those customers on a daily basis. In regards to manufacturing and distribution, Nike is not comparable to any other company. They have absolute advantage. Over 80% of Nike's merchandise is actually produced in overseas factories, which is incredible in regards to driving revenue and reducing costs because they're able to do it cheaper in those overseas countries than they would if they did it in the United States. This does, however, give Nike a trade deficit because the majority of their products are shipped from overseas already and then are shipped out from there, especially places like China where a large amount of Nike's products are made. They have a trade surplus and because they do so much trading. And so Nike being located in the United States in Oregon, but doing the majority of its production in overseas countries does cause them to have a trade deficit. However, it's a really smart move as far as Nike goes because it is continuing to drive their revenue and increase the amount of money that they're making per year and still creating an incredible product. Nike is huge on setting goals, both short-term and long-term. So some of its short-term goals include empowering its employees. They're constantly empowering all employees from the lower levels all the way up into the board of directors. They want everybody to have a say in what's going on at Nike, and so they do that through empowering employees, whether it be through benefits or workshops. It really just depends on the location and what's going on at the time. They're constantly educating those in those management positions because they're a huge driving force for the company. And they really want to develop strong relationships with their factories because, like I said, most of those are overseas, so they don't have a super hands-on approach with those, but they're still working to build strong relationships. They give rewards for those excelling and achieving, which we'll talk about a little bit more later within the article that I chose. But for those companies that are meeting those goals and exceeding, they're able to do more for those teams and just continue to make sure that they're thriving. As far as long-term goals, Nike is huge in community outreach through access to sport, which is pretty much what it says. It gives areas that don't have access to certain products, those products that they need, so that way those kids and those younger individuals have the opportunity to participate in sports and have the proper gear for that. Their long-term goal as far as revenue goes is to grow at an annual rate of 10% up and through 2020, and as far as right now goes, they're on track and meeting that goal. They also are working to become more environmentally friendly, so reducing the amount of waste that they use and to increase recycling in regards to shipping and packaging and just creating the shoe because they're creating a lighter weight shoe currently. They're using less materials and they're working to waste less materials as well. That's very important for Nike at this time. The article I found about Nike is titled Integration, Incentives, and Innovation, Nike's Strategy to Improve Social and Environmental Conditions in its Global Supply Chain, which is a really long title, but I will get to the summary in just a second. It was written by Ingrid Porteous and Sonali Ramohan in November of 2013 at Stanford University. So what the article begins with is kind of just summarizing a few of Nike's biggest obstacles, but then more importantly, what I found great about it was that it talks about how Nike's working to fix those and how they're staying the leading competitor, which I think is important because lots of companies are content with just maintaining what they're doing now, and Nike isn't one of those. Nike's continuing to grow and change, and in those problem areas, it's working to fix them. So it has a lot of overseas factories, as we've talked about, and so it's working on making sure that those are staying on track and continuing to grow and that they're not falling to the wayside because of other things that are happening. It wants to maintain its positive employees, and it does that through training and goal setting and things of that nature. And it wants to remain the top competitor. And so we'll discuss a little bit more on how it does that. In regards to innovation, Nike's currently in the process of going green. And so we'll talk about a few of the goals they've set there and just a little bit about their global marketing and their incentives for employees. So in 2011, to track the progress of those overseas factories, which Nike calls contract factories, they implemented the manufacturing index. And so what the manufacturing index does is it tracks those factories' progress and makes sure that they're staying on track with whatever goals have been set. And so they grade them on a scale of 0 to 100 based on 4 categories: the quality, on-time delivery, the cost, and sustainability. So it grades them based on that criteria and gives them a score. And so then from that, they're put into 4 categories: the gold level, the bronze level, the yellow level, and the red level. So those factories that are in the bronze and gold level are considered accepted. And so from there, they're able to work with the Nike leadership team to train on new technologies that the company is developing, to work on waste management, going green, other innovative processes like that. Those companies that are in the yellow and red area are then given incentives and assistance to boost their performance. And then in some cases, they'll have to come up with an action plan to fix whatever problem areas they have. And they have to follow that action plan. And then members of the Nike team will work with them to make sure that they're on track and just see exactly what needs to change so that way those factories can begin to thrive and receive a better score. As far as innovation goes, Nike is very conscious of energy efficiency. They're constantly striving to improve their manufacturing products. And so one of the big things they're doing is going green. And they just recently started working with Dyeco, which is a Dutch technology firm, who is currently developing a waterless textile dyeing machine, which sounds a little bit extreme, but it's really quite simple. So what they're doing is, instead of using water to transfer those dyes onto the material, it uses recycled carbon dioxide. And so it's cutting down the water use so much, which is extremely important because, as I've said, the majority of Nike's products are made overseas, such as places like Asia, who do have water management difficulties. And so using this machine could benefit the environment as well as be a great move innovatively for Nike. They're also developing packaging for shipping that uses less materials. We're creating lighter weight shoes, Nike is, and so it's able to use less materials, and it's doing so in a way that we're not wasting as many materials, which is really important because it is easy when creating a product like a shoe to waste a lot of material, and that's not what Nike wants to do. They want to maximize their costs and maximize their profits by still continuing to use less materials and be more environmentally friendly. How does Nike stay the leading competitor? It's been the leading competitor since it started, and competitors such as Reebok, Adidas, and Under Armour, they're not even close to touching what Nike is doing. And how does Nike do that? They are dedicated to their employees, every single one of them, and they're dedicated to allowing each employee to grow and to set goals and to stay on track and to give input as far as where Nike needs to go futuristically. Yes, there is that upper level board that's making those big decisions, but they're constantly in contact with the lower level managers and all of the factories to see what's working best, what isn't working, and how they can fix those problems. They're continuing to dive deeper into innovation. Lots of times you see big companies like this that have been successful for so long that are just content with staying right where they are and staying on track. Nike's not one of those. They're constantly trying to create new products and new brands and new lines that meet customer needs and continue to be innovative and use better technologies and better products and better materials to stay the leading competitor. They are dedicated to customer satisfaction, and that's their main goal, is to please those customers and keep those employees happy and let them know that what they say matters. Nike, just do it. And that's what Nike's been doing since 1960. And they continue to just do it and continue to thrive. And that's what sets them apart from other companies.